Alright guys, in this video I'm going to show you guys where to find the essay prompts for UC specifically. UC colleges, so the University of California colleges in California. This doesn't apply to private schools such as USC, Stanford, etc., etc. This is specifically just for the UCs because I've been getting a couple questions, and some of them are for transfer related questions, and some of the guys have been asking me, "Oh, where do I find the essay?" And they've been asking me advice on how to write essays, on what kind of topics to choose. But I'm just going to show you the basics, where to find the UC transfer essay prompts. And I think I took a look at it yesterday just to see what it was like, to see if it changed or not when I applied. And the prompt did change, but the concept is still the same. And I'll show you guys how to find it. So basically, you go to google.com and you type in UC transfer prompts. And then right here, transfer. Okay, so like I said, this is specifically for University of California, not private schools, just for the UC system. And make sure that you're in the transfer applicant section because you're a transfer student. You don't want to do freshman because I think that the prompts are different, or maybe they're the same, but there's 8, and the transfer has 7. But the maximum is 350 words. I think when I applied it was 500 words, and I think they reduced it. But I remember writing 2 essays, and they didn't give us 7 prompts, so I think this is new. So basically, out of the 7 questions, you want to choose 3 of them, and these are the prompts, and let's see what they are. To be honest, this is my first time reading the prompts, so I'm just going to give you my first impressions and what I think about these prompts. Alright, so 3 of the 7. Alright, let's start with the first one. Describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. So this is a pretty typical essay question, a pretty cliche one. But even though it's cliche, even though it's typical and it's quote unquote easy, the issue a lot of people have with this prompt, including myself when I first started out, was that my examples were very cliche. It was like examples that everyone uses, like I wrote a couple drafts for my first essay, and the first one I remember, it was I was working at Jamba Juice, and I had to manage a team, blah blah blah. And things got kind of hectic during work. It was like rush hour, and there was a lot of customers and whatnot. And that does show you, leadership experience. Like you can say, oh, when the lines were long at work, I helped solve it, with proper communication and leading my team. But at the same time, that's so easy to write about. Everybody writes about that topic, or not everybody, but a large portion of people, especially if you're like under 18 or under 20, you don't have much work experience other than minimum wage. So, where else could you get leadership experience unless you do extracurriculars and you're leaders, whether it's in your band or whether it's, a sports team or a organization that you're part of. But, being a leader in that is pretty rare. An organization like a band or whatnot, you have like 50 plus people, and a leader is the number one person, and not everyone can be a leader. So you have to take time on, what topic to choose. And I'm not going to give out specific examples because, I don't know, who you guys are specifically, and what you guys do, and what interests you have. But when you approach this essay prompt, you have to keep in mind of the cliche topics. And also look at it from the perspective of a college admission counselor. So basically, um, I don't even know if they're called counselors, but the person who's reading these essays and who are judging whether or not you're going to go to the college or get accepted to the college or not. These dudes are probably reading like tens of thousands of letters or of essays. And, if everyone writes about their work experience, like how is that going to differentiate you from all the other applicants? So you have to keep that in mind. Um, like I said, I don't know who you guys are specifically, so I can't really help you guys with the prompt. But I'm not going to give out specific examples, but I'm going to tell you guys and give you advice on how to approach these types of questions. So this one, my main advice is just don't be cliche. But that advice can probably go for all of these. But let's look at the second prompt. Every person has a creative side, and it can be expressed in many ways: problem solving, original and innovative thinking, and artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. So this question is a lot different from the first one. So this one, it gives you a lot more flexibility on how to approach the prompt. In this one, it asks you specifically, what is your leadership experience? And to be honest, this prompt is pretty hard to write, I think, because, like I said, you guys are like under 20 years old. And, with that short of a time, like, how many guys have truly led a group or a team or an organization or whatever? Because I definitely didn't when I was like 18 or 20 writing this prompt. So yeah, this one is definitely a much more flexible, and I think it's an easier prompt to choose. And like I said, it gives you three. You can choose three answers out of seven, so you can completely ignore this one. If I was writing this transfer essay for this year, I would completely ignore this question because you know too cliche. The answers are too cliche, and it's just a very difficult prompt to answer, in my own opinion. But this one, it gives you a lot more flexibility. Creativity. Everyone has their own interests. Everyone has their own pursuits and things that they like. So, for example, let's say you're a musician. You can say, oh, with music, I use it to be creative. Whether it's to compose or, you know, um, if you're a business major or a business-minded person and you also like music, you can say, oh, I always liked the artistic side, but also I appreciate the business side of music. And I think that with the music industry, I have a lot to contribute to this organization, to this industry, and you can get into more detail with that kind of stuff. And it doesn't even have to be music, anything that's creative. You can even be sports, like basketball, creating new moves, or being a leader and creating shots, or you know good looks for your teammates and whatnot. And I'm kind of like talking in a stretch, like um, I'm kind of exaggerating on the topics to write, but this one is a lot more flexible than the first prompt. So if I had to choose three, I would definitely keep this as one of the options. But obviously, since I haven't read the other ones, I wouldn't choose this 100%. But this is a prompt that I would consider. All right, number three. What would you say is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? So this one is also a really good prompt. It's very straightforward, and it's not specific, as in like, oh, what leadership experience do you have? This one is kind of similar to the second one. So if you choose this, number two, prompt two, and prompt three, you have to be careful of not trying to overlap on the same ideas. Because, let's say you wrote, for the creative prompt, you said, oh, I like art. You can also say that I like art and elaborate more on your artistic talents or skills. But and let's say that you do write about the same topic and it's both really good essays. but you also have to look at it from the perspective of the reader. You think this dude, the guy who's reading it, or the girl, wants to read, two same topics when he has like tens of thousands of essays to read? He's probably going to get bored. So if you do choose this one and this one, I highly recommend you to differentiate on the topic, on the scenario, and just the angle of the essay. But this one, I definitely choose number 3, or keep that in my mind, either 2 or 3. And this one, a lot of people, when it comes to essays, where you have to write about your personal life, about your personal self, a lot of people try to be too humble, and it's good to be humble. It's good to not be hella cocky and like think you're the shit. But at the same time, like, dude, this is your one chance to show yourself, show these dudes, show the University of California admission on why you are unique, on why they should select you. So if you truly have a talent or skill that you're proud of, dude, just brag as much as you want. If you made 50 points in a basketball game, dude, say it. And obviously don't be like, yo, I was the best player of the team and I destroyed everyone. Like, don't do it like that, because that's just cocky as fuck, and it doesn't look good on an essay or just in general. But if you have a skill and you are confident in your skill, I would highly advise you guys to elaborate on what that skill is. Because it doesn't hurt to brag if it's good. If you're good and you brag, that's not bad. That's just, if you can back it up, I see nothing wrong with that. All right, let's look at prompt 4. Describe how you have taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or worked to overcome an educational barrier you have faced. This is a very interesting prompt. This one, I think I would choose. So out of the 4 so far, I'd probably choose either 2, 3, and then definitely 4, because this one is a completely different topic from these two. Educational opportunity. So this one, obviously, since you guys are under 20, probably you guys have been in school your whole life or since preschool, so you have a lot of experience when it comes to education, because everyone has formal education for the most part. Everyone has gone to middle school, elementary school, high school. So in those 10 plus years, I'm pretty sure that you guys have faced at least once where you had a good educational opportunity. So let's say that, for example, like you were broke, your family had no money to go to a private school. I'm completely making this up on the spot. Let's say you had no money to attend a school, but you had some great talent, and you submitted an application or whatever, and then the school saw the talent, and because of that, you got like free tuition to a school or whatever. It can be that kind of example. So basically, choose a specific example in your life that's related to education, and also an opportunity that you had, and why that was so monumental and so influential to your life. Because it also asks you, there's 2 parts to the question. Or actually, it's actually 1 part. It says or. That's the key word. If it was and, it'd be 2 parts. But or, it can be a significant educational opportunity or work to overcome an educational barrier. So you can choose one of these questions, one of these 2 questions: significant educational opportunity or work to overcome an educational barrier. So this one is also pretty flexible, but at the same time kind of specific. So, since everyone is different, everyone has their own unique experiences, this is probably a very good prompt to write. And this is something that I think I would personally choose to write about. All right, let's look at 5. Describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? So this one is, like, I think this one is pretty similar to this one, but This gives you a more, it's asking a little bit more specific. It's saying, what was the hardest thing that you have ever faced? And, with this challenge, with this hardship and toil, how has this affected your academic achievement? Um, so it's saying, how, because of the challenges you faced, how has this made you succeed in academia? Um, I mean, damn, this is a pretty good question, actually. This is like some pretty like insightful like questions they're asking. Like you got to do some reflection. Um, let's see what this is. If you're currently working your way through a challenge, what are you doing now, and how is that? This one. I'll just make a random example again. You can say something like, "Oh, you know, I come from a broken family, like divorced or whatever. Um, my brother is sick. I had to take care of my parents and my brothers and my siblings, but I couldn't just, take care of them and not study. But because of, the hardships at home and, doing so much to support my family, that gave me more motivation and more confidence to work even harder to achieve my academic goals. I mean, that could be a pretty good essay topic right there. But you can take this any way you want. But you got to find a challenge that you faced personally, and more importantly, you got to say it's not just, oh, I had this challenge done. No, you got to say you got to talk about and elaborate what you did to overcome this difficult task. And because of this difficult task, how has this changed your academic achievement? How has this challenged, affected your academic achievement? So, you can use the example that I gave before, but like I said, everyone is different. So it's probably best to use your own unique example of a challenge or struggle that you've had and something that you overcame. So, what have you done to make your school or your community a better place? This isn't bad either. This is kind of similar to the first one, I'd say, but not really because this one is asking for leadership. And for those of you who haven't had leadership positions, this is probably a better prompt to talk about because, you know, you don't have to be a leader. You don't have to be, the number one person to better your community or, to make your school a better place. You can say something like, "Oh, my high school basketball was shit. My basketball team was shit, and I was the best player. And when I joined the team, I basically turned it around. And I noticed that in the beginning, a lot of my teammates and the coaches lacked confidence. They lacked structure. But I came from a different school where basketball was very big, and I learned the fundamentals and the foundation that you need in order to be successful, not only as an individual player but as a team. And because of my experience with that, I brought this mentality and this spirit back to my own school. And not only did we make our basketball team a lot better, but also the morale of the school got a lot stronger. Dude, I just completely made that up on the spot. Um, so you can, basically say whatever you did personally to make your community and your school a much better place. And like I said before, I said this a couple times. Everyone is different. Everyone is unique. So you guys have your own personal experiences. You guys can use the example that I gave right now, but if everyone uses the same example, like I said, then the issue of being cliche comes up, and being cliche is usually not good, especially when they're trying to evaluate you on why they should accept you to a UC. Let's see. Oh, application fees. Damn, that's interesting. All right, so let's see the last prompt. Beyond what has already been shared in your application, what do you believe makes you stand out as a strong candidate for admissions to the UCs? So basically, this is a very vague an overarching prompt. It just relates to basically this, what did you do to make yourself better or to better your community? What challenge have you faced? What's your greatest skill? It's basically like any of these prompts in this one prompt. But it specifically tells you what I mentioned before. It says, dude, what makes you an excellent choice for UC? Don't be afraid to brag a little. And the sheer fact that they said this, like, don't be afraid to brag, shows you a lot. It's okay to be kind of cocky. It's okay to write with a little confidence. If you did something great, dude, just say it. I mean, if you did something good and something great and something amazing, there's nothing to be shy about, especially in this situation where these colleges are looking at thousands and thousands and thousands of students, and they need to choose a handful. And they're not going to choose some random person with a very cliche example. They want someone unique, someone that stands out. Even if your GPA may not be the greatest, if you do have a strong essay, not particularly for transfer students, I'd say, but for freshman applicants, the essay can make or break an application. If you're competing with someone with similar stats, like let's say you had a 3.7 and another dude had a 3.7, but he had a shitty essay and you had a great essay, dude, the chances of you getting in is much higher than the other guy. And that's what the essay part is usually for. It's not, they look at solely the essay and wow, like this is a great essay, this guy is in. No. Your grades are the most important, but the essay is kind of the secondary factor that they use to judge whether or not you'd be a good fit for the school. So, I didn't get into too much details like on what specific topics to write about because, like I said, that all depends on the person. But, I'm just showing you, what my first impression was. Like, I didn't even see these questions before. I literally just went to Google. I did see the website. I did see this, but I didn't read the specific prompts. But, from first impression, I think it's great that they give you 7 choices. And, out of the 7 questions, you can only choose 3. I think that's very great. It gives you a lot more opportunities and a lot more options on what you want to write about. In the past, they only gave me 2, which one was just the basic UC prompt, and then the second one was a transfer prompt. And everyone had to write the same 2 prompts. And I think that because everyone was writing the same 2 prompts, maybe the essays were getting too what do you call it, repetitious. Is that even how you pronounce it? But it was just getting too similar. So maybe that's why the UCs decided to diversify their UC prompts. But yeah, to sum it all up, I'd say the main advice is to be unique. Try to differentiate yourself. Don't use cliche topics that everyone uses, like, oh, I volunteered for a church organization and I saw homeless people. And dude, that is great. That's great. You did that, but dude, everyone writes about that, and I wrote about that too. In the beginning, I thought it was a great essay. I gave it for peer editing, and everyone had the same response. It was too cliche. So don't be cliche. Be unique. Be different, and ultimately write a strong and well-developed essay.